This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us. Civil servants could be the next group of government employees to walk off the job and hit the picket lines. All 11,000 of them. Yet another labor battle for the Manitoba government, which again comes down to wages. CBC's Brittany Greenslade has the latest.
Heather's line is weak. Our picket line is strong. What do we want? Fair wages.
It's become a common chant in recent weeks, but today it got louder as civil servants are adding their voices and getting ready to take job action.
Keep up! Keep up!
One by one, hundreds of civil servants, Manitoba public insurance workers, and their supporters marched to the legislature steps. Both groups say negotiations are at a standstill and wages remain the biggest sticking point.
It's about livelihoods that have been put into jeopardy when fairness is not exercised. It's about the single parent who works part-time in the contact center and works 2 jobs to make ends meet.
It's the latest potential labor trouble for the progressive Conservative government. Liquor workers reached a deal ending a 5-week strike on the weekend. MPI workers walked off the job 24 hours later. Now, thousands of civil servants could join.
Cost of living crisis is being felt by everyone across this country. It has been driven up when people can't afford our housing and we can't afford food and we can't afford those basics.
The Manitoba Government and General Employees Union President Kyle Ross says the government has offered wage increases of 2% each year for 4 years. He says that's not good enough.
We all know that a dollar isn't going as far as it used to. And just like each and every MLA in this building, every Manitoban deserves raises that lessen the pain of inflation.
Back in February, MGEU threatened rotating targeted strikes were on the horizon and would be used as a means of leveraging more lucrative deals, similar to what unions in BC did.
We could put a plan together so if this day came and we didn't get fair offers, our members would have the ability and the tools to take on the challenges that it makes. It's unfortunate that we have to be on a strike. No one wants to be on a strike.
For civil servants, it's a battle that dates back to 2017, when the Tory government threatened to impose wage freezes.
There's got to be some baked-in frustration for those Bill 28 and those things, and it's unfortunate. We're trying to get a fair deal. We're trying not to look backward. I'm trying to look forward.
Ross says a strike vote for civil servants is likely weeks away. Brittany Greenslade, CBC News, Winnipeg.
CBC asked the Premier about another potential strike looming. Instead of receiving an answer from her, a government spokesperson sent us a message saying bargaining continues and the province is hopeful an agreement will be reached. Manitoba Public Insurance says some driver testing will now resume, even while its workers are on strike. MPI is resuming Class 5 driver testing services using private driving instructors. The Crown Corporation says priority will be given to customers who had appointments cancelled as a result of the strike. Roughly 1,700 workers at MPI walked off the job Monday. Teens who have successfully completed MPI's driver's ed program can be licensed without a road test, but they will need parental consent. MPI is also resuming the written driver's knowledge tests required for a learner's license. MPI says it will have the discretion to require retesting at no charge for anyone who's licensed during this time once the strike is over. With a new school year right around the corner, some families are still struggling to find childcare, specifically for older children who need a place to go before and after class. As CBC's Josh Crabb reports, with a provincial election looming, parents and childcare providers are looking for solutions.
I'm going to make some apples.
Finding childcare isn't easy. It was a challenge for Serenity Archambault to get a spot for her 3-year-old daughter.
It was pretty hard. We just threw her on wait lists around the city, hoping one of them would call us back, and they did.
With students going back to class next week, some parents are still scrambling to find before and after school care for older children. Huron Childcare Director Charanjit Singh says around 200 people are on the wait list, in line for 15 licensed spaces for kids between 7 and 12 years old, which are currently full.
They are looking for a space. They need to go to work, but where do they find the space?
There's been a surge in demand since $10 a day daycare was introduced in April. The Manitoba government committed to using federal funding to create 23,000 new childcare spaces by 2026, but most of those spaces are for kids under 7. Manitoba Childcare Association Executive Director Jody Kale says more focus is needed on expanding school-age care.
It would take the investments and political will of a provincial government to also then expand childcare spaces for the 7 to 12-year-old children.
With a provincial election right around the corner, political parties are releasing their plans for childcare. Outside this Furmore Avenue daycare run by the YMCA, Liberal leader Dougal Lamont promised to increase wages and benefits for early childhood educators and make it easier for organizations to access infrastructure funding.
The 7 to 12, we could be expanding, we'll look at expanding school programs.
The NDP says it would expand $10 a day childcare for older kids to summer and holidays and make hours more flexible for shift workers. The Progressive Conservatives say they've used provincial funding to open 3,200 spaces for 7 to 12-year-olds, with 1,000 more on the way. While her daughter has a spot for now, Archambault is concerned about finding one when she gets older.
School is like more strict start times, whereas daycare here, you could drop them off kind of at any point.
She hopes more spaces will be created before her daughter starts school. Josh Crabb, CBC News, Winnipeg.
The PC candidate for Kirkfield Park was the main target during a pre-election forum about the environment. Kevin Klein faced repeated criticism for the way the PC government has handled a proposal to drill for silica sand in southeastern Manitoba. Klein said experts in Manitoba's Environment Ministry and not those in the PC cabinet will make a final decision about that drilling. That led to this exchange between Klein and Manitoba Green Party leader Janine Gibson.
The reality is we're not trained or educated to make that decision.
Speak for yourself.
Experts. Are you a miner?
No, but I've assessed ecosystems.
Gibson and Liberal leader Dougal Lamont oppose the silica mining plan. The NDP's Lisa Naylor says her party will follow expert advice. Ottawa has a warning for LGBTQ travelers heading south of the border to be extra cautious in the United States. As the CBC's Stephanie Cram reports, some say this new travel advisory isn't detailed enough.
Some travelers might be rethinking their plans before hopping in their car to drive south. A Global Affairs Canada advisory released yesterday warns LGBTQ travelers some states have enacted laws and policies that may affect 2S LGBTQI+ persons. Check relevant state and local laws. For Heather Milne, who identifies as queer, yesterday's announcement was a long time coming.
I think it was a wise decision on the part of the government. I mean, 2S LGBTQ travelers do need to be prudent and cautious when traveling in some areas in the United States right now.
The advisory does not mention any specific law or state policy and does not suggest staying away from a particular state. Milne says the advisory is not good enough.
It would be great if the government could provide more up-to-date and detailed information, because sometimes it is hard to find out that information on your own.
South of Manitoba, in North Dakota, several bills were recently passed that target the state's LGBTQ community, including one bill that bans drag performances in public spaces and another that bans gender-affirming care for LGBTQ youth. Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland says the decision to release the advisory was not taken lightly.
Every Canadian government, very much including our government, needs to put at the center of everything we do the interests and the safety of every single Canadian and of every single group of Canadians. That's what we're doing now, and that's what we're always going to do.
The need to take precautions in the United States is not new for some LGBTQ travelers. Travel agent Linda Robidoux-Berndorfer says she tells her clients to always be cautious when visiting.
When we're visiting, we are a visitor, and we have to respect their laws, their customs, their rules. And even if the U.S. are our friends and allies, there's certain areas where an extra degree of caution is really going to be necessary.
Global Affairs says the advisory is meant to allow people to make their own informed decisions about where to travel. Stephanie Cram, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Some people who went to live in homeless camps after they were evicted from the Adinak apartments last week have found housing. The West End building was ordered to close 9 days ago due to fire safety issues. Many tenants left with whatever they could carry before the building was boarded up. St. Boniface Street Link says 3 of the 10 former tenants it's been working with have found spots with Manitoba Housing. Street Link's executive director, Marion Willis, admits it can be difficult for some to leave the camps and the sense of community they've built there. But she says most jump at the chance for safe housing.
Nobody's really very interested in encampment living. The truth is that people really want to be housed. I know that when those that got into Manitoba Housing from our group realized that that's where they were going, they were thrilled.
Willis says most of the tenants' belongings are still inside the now boarded up Adinak building, so it will be difficult for people to feel settled until they know what's happening there. City inspectors say the Adinak will remain closed until safety concerns are addressed. The City of Winnipeg has decided to extend spray pad season. Spray pads were originally scheduled to close this coming Monday, the same day most outdoor pools and remaining wading pools close. But now the city says spray pads will stay open for an extra week until September 11th, offering families an additional week to beat the heat with some free outdoor fun. Meteorologist John Sauter joins us now. It's been quite a lovely day, and I guess we've got a lovely sight in store for the evening as well.
We do. A little bit of haze is going to make the super blue moon look really cool tonight. So here are the details on the supermoon that will be a blue moon tonight. It rises at, it's full actually at 8:35, but it rises just after that at 8:36. You'll see it above the tree line and above the buildings, probably around 9 o'clock, but it'll look nice and red and orange. It's called a blue moon, as you know, because it's the second full moon in a calendar month. So it's a supermoon because it's a little closer in its orbit. About 30% brighter, about 13 to 14% larger as well. So you can call it a super duper moon, I guess. 27, that's where we were today. Winds south 17 to 30, and I usually say winds will drop off in the evening hours. Tonight I'm not saying that. I think they'll actually pick up in the overnight period. We have a windy Thursday on the way, thanks to this system here that is giving some showers and thunderstorms in through Regina right now. It'll move into Manitoba as we head into tomorrow with some showers even early in the day in western regions, Riding Mountain, up around Dauphin, Swan River as well. Might even see a morning shower here in Winnipeg, and then things settle down. And then late in the day, we get another little impulse that moves through with a shower or thunderstorm in the late afternoon and on into evening. This is 5:30 p.m. and you can see this just kind of circulates out of the region by the time we get into Friday morning, for the most part anyway. If there is cloud around on Friday morning, it clears quickly. It'll be a sunny day. It'll be another windy day and another warm day as well. So, and then on into Friday night and on into early Saturday, we just see skies clearing completely, and the heat really starts to return, as you'll see in a few minutes in the 7-day forecast. So these are the wind velocities in the morning. The windiest part of the province will be here, the Red River Valley and the southeast. In the afternoon, I'm saying gusts to about 60. The forecast model is saying a gust to 51. 17 tonight is the low. Last night we got down to 9, so much warmer tonight. 19 in the morning already. Southeast winds are 30 to 50, and then south 40 to 60 in the afternoon. A high of 28, but the clouds will start to look a little darker late afternoon, and there's a good chance for those, or a slight chance for some storm activity late afternoon and evening. And it's not just here in the south. Flin Flon, the Pond, Norway House, Island Lake. Chance of an afternoon shower or storm farther north. It is quieter weather and still very warm across northern Manitoba. The southwest, well, a lot more cloud around Dauphin, Swan River. Showers, risk of storms. Could see that in the morning around Brandon, afternoon around Portage. The chance is less closer to the international border, and even some 29s and 30s closer to the border, but still some very gusty winds. Our chance for an afternoon shower includes that thunderstorm risk. And then we're looking at 24 to 26 in northwestern Ontario. And again, a chance of afternoon showers or thunderstorms. So as I'll show you in the 7-day forecast, some very warm weather on the way.
Okay, thank you so much, John. We'll look forward to it. Speaking of weather, Hurricane Idalia roared ashore in Florida today. It was a Category 3 storm at the time, the strongest storm to hit the region in more than 125 years. We'll bring you the story and show you the destruction next. Hurricane Idalia has roared across Florida and is now pounding Georgia as a Category 1 storm. Idalia is losing strength, but it's still expected to inflict damage on the Carolinas before heading back out to sea over the Atlantic. CBC's Sarah Levitt shows us the destruction brought by the storm.
It made landfall just before 8 a.m. and Idalia is wreaking havoc as it moves northeast. At one point, winds were more than 200 kilometers per hour, making it briefly a Category 3 storm. Many found themselves without power, including officials like Florida Governor Ron DeSantis during an early briefing on the storm.
And there we go with our power here. We're back.
The storm has meant trees snapped in half, downed power lines and debris being whipped through the air, roofs completely ripped off buildings, houses destroyed. Even the governor's mansion wasn't spared when this 100-year-old oak fell on it. Then there's the storm surge, causing massive flooding as the water rose and moved inland.
It's like hell down there. Wind was blowing this morning at about 80 miles an hour.
If there's anything the states need right now, I'm ready to mobilize that support of what they need.
Both state and federal officials say response and recovery teams are in all 4 states impacted by Idalia. Utility crews working to restore power, U.S. Coast Guard members, aid workers, all on the ground to help.
As we go into the next few days, we're going to want to assess what the total amount of damage is and see what immediate needs need to be put forth in order to help support and start the recovery process.
One that will take months and a whole lot of work. Sarah Levitt, CBC News, Washington.
The RCMP is warning evacuees from the Northwest Territories not to try to return to the communities they left because of wildfires. Mounties say they've heard reports of people planning to drive back from Alberta and not stop for checkpoints. The Premier of NWT visited an evacuation centre in Edmonton and had this message for people who want to get home.
As soon as it's safe to go home, as soon as the fire's in control, then it will take about 4 or 5 days at least. We need to make sure that the power, the sewer, the airports, the hospitals, all that infrastructure, grocery stores, gas stations are functioning first, and then we'll bring people home.
Nearly 70% of the territory's population of around 45,000 has sought refuge in Alberta and other places. The territory has extended its state of emergency until September 11th. A statue of Sir John A. Macdonald that was pulled down 3 years ago in downtown Montreal will not be going back up, at least not there. Protesters pulled down the statue of Canada's first Prime Minister during an anti-racism demonstration 3 years ago. Macdonald helped create Canada's residential school system and implemented racist policies against Indigenous people. His statue will be restored and put on display somewhere else in Montreal with context to explain things. The now empty pedestal will remain in Place du Canada as a reminder of the statue's history. The City of Montreal will commission artists to find a way of modernizing that monument. Russian officials say at least 6 regions were targeted in waves of Ukrainian drone attacks overnight. Several areas within 200 kilometers of Moscow were hit. And according to state media reports, 4 military transport planes were damaged at the airport near the Russia-Estonia border. This video on social media shows smoke billowing over the joint civilian-military airport about 700 kilometers north of Ukraine. No reports of injuries. Ukrainian officials have not commented on this, but they say Russia hit Kyiv with drones and missiles during the night in a massive combined attack. 2 people were killed. There's been another coup in Africa. Soldiers say they're now in control of Gabon. The CBC's Margaret Evans looks at how the mutiny unfolded.
It is by now a well-worn script. This, the 8th military coup in Western and Central Africa over the last 3 years. Gabonese military officers announcing their takeover on state television.
Nous, Forces de défense et de sécurité.
Institutions were dissolved, they said, borders closed, and President Ali Bongo under house arrest, from where he issued a plea to his friends for help.
I don't know what's going on. So I'm calling you to make noise, really. I'm thanking you.
Many people did make noise out on the streets, but in celebration. Thanks to the army, said this man. We're liberated, shouted another. Bongo's reign is over. Part of a family dynasty in power for over 50 years, Bongo was just declared the winner of elections analysts say many people suspect were rigged.
And they've welcomed the coup. That's, if the election had been credible, that perhaps that reaction would have been different.
Gabon is rich in oil and minerals, but that wealth hasn't trickled down to the hands of ordinary people. Gabon's former colonizer, France, has condemned the coup. France reaffirms its wish for the election results once known to be respected, says this government spokesman. Anti-French sentiment has grown, not just in Gabon, but in other former French colonies where military juntas now rule. One of the coup leaders, Presidential Guard head General Brice Nguema, is expected to play a key role in the coming days, feted here by soldiers, shouting his name and calling him president. Margaret Evans, CBC News, London.
Still ahead tonight, John Sauter and his 7-day forecast as we head toward the last long weekend of summer. That and your daily lift still to come.
Well, today was a beauty for late August. Tomorrow and the next day, kind of windy days, but we do start to warm up, and the temperatures haven't changed much for the weekend as far as forecasting is concerned. We're going to be around 31 to 32 on Saturday, 29 Sunday, and then increasing cloud, a little cooler for holiday Monday, and quite a bit cooler next week, but the normal high is 22. And to some, this may seem wasteful. You know, I can think of better things to do with tomatoes. You could make soup or salsa.
Right?
Right.
But instead, people in Spain chose to have a whole lot of fun. Here is your daily lift. Yes, it's time for La Tomatina, Spain's annual tomato fight. Trucks loaded with overripe tomatoes drive through Buñol, a town in eastern Spain, dispersing the pulpy projectiles to the happy partygoers. This event started spontaneously amongst villagers in 1945. It was banned in the early 1950s, but John, that ban was overturned after villagers held a mock funeral. They did a big procession with bands and a coffin containing one big tomato.
Yeah, that aerial shot just looked red.
Can you imagine how slippy it would be?
Yeah.
But fun. Thanks for being with us. Have a great evening, and we'll
Good night.
see you later.